Hi all and welcome to a study in mundanity, or an exploration of mundanity, and today's game is going to be Euro Truck Simulator 2. I've always been fascinated by the Euro Truck Simulator sort of genre, so to speak, because it's a hyper-specific realisation of something that, from an outside perspective, you can almost wonder why. Why is this something that people have chosen? And I do have sort of an underlying philosophy that if you can simulate it, people will choose to simulate it. But I'm just fascinated that this, has enough popularity surrounding it to get people in. So I'll walk you through what we've been doing. I've played about coming up to 12 hours, 11 and a half hours. 10 days. To be honest, I was going to play a little more because we've only got a small garage and we only own one truck. So my aim was potentially to get into the trailers and then owning a bigger garage, owning a couple of trucks and sort of hiring people out. But to be honest, I've got enough of the way through this game to know what it's doing that I don't feel like it's necessary. This is my guy. Please note I said guy. You only have the choice of male profile pictures. Which, whatever. They must think only guys can drive trucks. But I picked that by accident, not thinking it was going to be a finalised sort of image, and there we go, we are stuck with him. And this is my truck. It's a MAN truck, I don't know how to pronounce the brand. And this is sort of the main screen of the game. So we have truck dealers, we can buy trucks, we can buy trailers, we can do diagnostics, we can make slight adjustments, all of this stuff. And I think one of the key things with this series that I'm noticing is when you're looking at mundanity in games or things that can appear mundane, I think it's really useful to look at what is simulated and what is simulated with hyper detail. Because even though what we're doing in this game, I think the simulation aspect of it all, sort of like truck upgrades and being able to change your horns and trying to change, side skirts and things like that, that is what the game is interested in. We've got progress, we've got skills, we can level up. I've been getting all the dangerous cargo ones because they just seemed like they were worth some money. And you know what? This doesn't change anything. You just travel with some dangerous cargo. It's not like you need to drive in a particularly different way or anything like that, which I find interesting. It's almost progression for the sake of it. So what we can do, we can take a job. We can do a quick job, which we just start at the place wherever the quick job is. So here we'd start in Duisburg, and we get to go to Frankfurt. And you just start there and you go, and you don't really need to consider anything, sort of your own tiredness or fuel or things like that. The thing that I've been doing more recently, just because it's been making a bit more money, is I've been doing the freight market, I believe. So here, from Duisburg to Frankfurt, I basically have to own a truck to do this. We don't hire a truck, whereas the other one came with a hired truck. So I don't wonder if there's anything from Dortmund, which is where we are. I think if you click on Dortmund, I'm playing with a controller because I haven't got a fancy steering wheel. So from here we've got Dortmund to Frankfurt. So it's a nice short one. Cars, 7 tons. All these things do matter as well, with acceleration, things like that. So, night time. First things first. Let's switch our vehicle on. And put our lights on also. I like to have my windows open. It does make it a touch noisier. Oh, I'm in neutral. So all of the driving aspects here, which lanes we're driving on, gear changes, which you can have it in automatic, but I thought because you are doing so little in this game, in the moment to moment, that having that extra sort of thing of having to pay attention to gear changes would just add that touch more of not necessarily a skill cap, just it keeps you on top of your game and making decisions and doing things. So we pull in here. See, this is the part I find interesting. We've got all of these highly simulated things, and then the way it chooses to actually, you get jobs and you do jobs. And look, I'm not a trucker. I've never done this in my life. I don't know too much about it. But from the outside experiences of this, I don't think you just turn up to a place and be like, oh, have you still got that contract? Can I pick that up? In fact, I imagine the vast majority of truckers are hired. You know, they're full-time or work for a, what's it called, company? A contract company sort of thing. So we need to pick up our trailer here. You can kind of bodge this, and it doesn't need to be super accurate. You notice how at first I didn't have these wing mirror things on the screen. I actually use the physical ones that do work, and they're great. But the problem is your head turns too slowly. In reality, you'd be like just checking quickly over there instead of having to move all the way. So having that left windshield available is good. So we need to leave here and go left. That's all attached, right? Yeah, it's feeling slower. Let's actually change gears. I haven't figured out at all what gears the game expects you to be in at all times. And to be honest, I think one of the recommended ways of playing is potentially with a gear shift, like an additional plug-in accessory sort of thing. Meaning that you don't have to go up and down the gears. You can just select the gear you want, which I think is more, again, realistic. But you can sort of, as with a lot of simulation games, you can sort of customize the experience to how you want in terms of realism. But so this is where we get to the true mundanity of the game. And I don't mean this as an insult, even though I know it could be construed as one by some people. This is the game. You know, we pick up our contract, we look on our minimap and see where we've got to go, and we move forward, keeping within the speed limits, which is 31 miles an hour. I'm a Brit, so we work in miles an hour, not the kilometres an hour, just because it's what I know a bit better. And it does translate all those across to you, because obviously I'm in Europe right now, so or on the continent, so it will be in kilometres per hour. But luckily they can change all that. Oh god, I'm not in a good gear for this. I tend to like climb up to the top and change down 2 gears at a time, or change up 2 gears at a time till I get to a nice like movement. So this brings me nicely to the, oh, we're going over the speed limit already. To be honest, I think we're in the wrong lane technically as well. I think that's the fast lane on the left. I don't know. The game, even though like it's interested in roads and trucks and things like that, it doesn't seem super interested in road rules. You know, it takes the big ones. It takes speed limit, it takes traffic lights, but stuff like lanes and where you should be in lanes, things like that, I've just kind of been guessing my way through it and it's been going fine. So we're going over the speed limit. Yeah, this is what you do. There's a game called Desert Bus, an old, I think it's a NES game, and you drive miles and miles and miles in it from one side of a map to another. And all you have to do is occasionally correct your steering a little bit to the left, because you're on a desert. All you need to do is follow a straight road. And it's a game as endurance. It's a game as... no, need to be going that lane. It's a game that's interested in endurance and... sorry, I didn't realise this would actually take concentration when I was doing it previously. It's a game about endurance and like how long can you keep occupied with the game, considering that the inputs from yourself are minor at best. And I feel like this game use of mundanity actually operates in a similar area. It's a game about driving, it's a game about endurance, it's from getting one place to another, and it's dealing with all the simulation stuff on the way there. So the roads, the fact that tiredness is a thing, the fact that I'm doing really badly at staying in lanes right now, it's fine, it'll correct out. As I say, it doesn't actually matter too much. So what does this sort of game allow and encourage, and what purposes is it having? And weirdly, I think there is a tightly associated fantasy of trucking and to do with it, and I think that's a big aspect of it, is satisfying that fantasy. And broadly speaking, and this is someone who hasn't particularly engaged in that, it's the it's a freedom associated fantasy, you know. It's the freedom of the roads to go where you want, it's to travel, it's to be nomadic, and to be self-sustainable or sustained off, you know, just your labour and your truck and getting on with it. I think it's a distinctly American thing, even though American Truck Simulator came out way after Euro Truck Simulator. So I wonder how true that is, or if it's sort of translated across borders over time. But that's the thing, as someone who doesn't have this fantasy and then playing with this game, it becomes a job simulator more than anything. It becomes a, right, let's go out and get some money. Let's go and chill on a few journeys, get some money, and upgrade my hideout. God, you can tell I've been playing Tarkov recently, or thinking about it anyway. Upgrade my trucker thing. Base. Oh, it had a word. It's in here somewhere. Garage. There we go. Upgrade my garage. And like the very typical sort of progression curve is what is I found engrossing and enticing, not the fantasy of driving around. And that means that it's allowed me a position of like sort of sitting back and seeing what the game is doing in regards to that fantasy, or what you can get from driving around even if you don't have it. And it's interesting because you could see this game as being a really good game as tourism, but the thing that it's a game of tourism of is motorways. It's busy 2 to 3 lane roads that frequently are put in places because the terrain around them is flat. It's the straightest point between 2 points. There's no, like, the only difference between being in the UK and in Europe is the side of the road you drive on. It's hilarious actually. When you drive into London, you don't get this big like slow build up of urban area. You just see the Shard in the distance, and you just see like a couple of like skybox things almost of what that city looks like. And like, I speak of London because it's the one I'm familiar with. You know, I've been to London a few times, and so I assume that that's probably very true of the other cities. I wonder if I can look on the map and show you a bit closer to what I mean. So Dortmund, where we've just come from. No. Sorry, I've got to use this mouse. Dortmund's a square. London, a square. There's no big M25. Oh, there is the M25 actually, I'm wrong. But there's no other ways in. You know, the M25 doesn't just have 4 roads coming off going into central London. There's whole, like, to get from around here into central London via train, it's about 30-40 minutes. You know, so it's a huge area. And now, I'm not knocking this, because games, not only do we look at what do games choose to simulate, it's interesting to look at what they miss out. And I think you got to miss something out. You couldn't do a fully perfect recreation of London. And if you are trapped, or not trapped, but if one of your primary sort of directives in making a game like this is to have it as being a trucking simulator, the main place that trucks go on are these highways. And highways, I think typically you could be on a highway in the vast majority of countries and not tell them apart. And don't get me wrong, there's going to be like some scenery changes, but from my experience so far, from being like Western to Central Europe, it's all been similar. And now I haven't got down to the Alps or anything like that. I'm not even sure if the map goes that far. But the game doesn't push you in those directions. The game isn't interested in those directions. What the game is interested in is the fantasy of trucks and the roads that they go on. And I think it's an interesting space because all of this ties up into like the conversations we've been having about mundanity in games and what you get from them and what they do. And so for this one, it's not only sort of, it allows you to simulate what can appear to be fairly benign things, but it's that, sorry, I'm again concentrating on the road. Yeah, it's not only simulating comparatively benign things, but it's allowing you to create a fantasy out of it and allow people to live through that. But not just that as well, it's there's a progression loop, you know, there's some systems there for you to sink your teeth into if you do want to. If this is the way you want to spend the game, there's enjoyment. And now, I think we talked about in the Viscera cleanup detail video about meditation or meditative games, and this is definitely one that fits in this category. It's very relaxing to play because the sort of requirements of you as a player are minimal, and you can choose what those requirements are, automatic to manual to a full proper stick shift. You can set how you want to engage with it, but that means that your inputs, you can go from relatively complicated but not even that complicated to something that all you have to do is hold down acceleration and brake if you're going way over the speed limit. So that's all sort of to say that the inputs aren't exactly taxing, and to be honest, sometimes when I'm playing this game late at night, I start feeling my eyes get drowsy, as they can do if you're driving these very sort of straight roads that don't have much in the way. I wonder if they see, this is the other thing. I'm glad we've come to one of these. The game just stops simulating huge chunks after a while, which again is understandable. I don't want to knock a game too much for that. You ain't going to simulate the whole of Europe. That's just an impossibility. But the joy of it is that sort of meditative experience. But I find it... I probably, what I'd say is there's probably not enough engagement for my personal preferences. I don't want to be getting drowsy when I'm playing games if possible. That's all to say that this isn't a judgment on the game. This is just sort of positioning it where it is in the world, and this is from my personal play experience, which I've enjoyed my time with, and I picked it up for like £3-4 anyway, so it's been fun to see what people get out of these games and what they enjoy about it. And I wonder if sort of the management side of the job, when you get into that, if that's any interesting. But the grind to get there, I mean, we could take out some bank loans, but that's just something I've avoided, to be honest. I've just ground to get where I want to do, and that might be a misplay on my part, but the game doesn't point you in any of these directions. The game just says, you can take these jobs, and this gives you money. This money can be spent in these places. Go out there. So, and I think that is on purpose. I think that's purposely the way the game's done it, is because they want it to be this open-ended fantasy. They don't want it to be too directed into anything. But yeah, so this is Euro Truck Simulator. We're going way over the speed limit here. What happens when you go over the speed limit, by the way, and you get caught? There's a flash of sirens, the noise of sirens, and you get fined €300. So, I mean, even crashing into someone is just it's a monetary fine. It's not oh, your vehicle's got damaged. You don't have to get out of the car and chat to them about insurance, and that makes your premiums go up because you had to claim or anything like that. It's just oh no, that's a bit of money off. So yeah, I just find it interesting, that sort of divide between what the game chooses to simulate and what that gets for you in the terms of the game. I think it's a perfectly good game. I think it's really interesting that someone has chosen to build something around this and it's popular. I don't think that's any bad thing. I think it's really cool and interesting that we can have game experiences that touch on the weirder side almost. So yeah, I think that's probably enough on talking about the mundanity of it. I'm in a really bad spot here because I need to break off. Right, I need to brake a little bit and then probably turn left, go up down my gears a touch so I've got a bit more acceleration. I'll tell you what, let's just ram our vehicle. Let's ignore this path off and just absolutely see if we can get into a total car crash or something. But then again, the game's not going to be interested in you being in a car crash. It's not going to be here's the horrific of the horrors of what these vehicles can do when put in the wrong hands. It'll just be a bump and then you crack on. See, we do that and we just carry on moving on. And again, I just find it interesting what the game chooses to pull out. It chooses to show motorways but without some of their consequences, It chooses to show sort of just driving, but not even like, it's again without consequences. It's not a game interested in that part, it's a game in like constant progression and forward movement. Anyway, I continue to ramble, as always. Thank you for watching. What do you think of Euro Truck Simulator? If you've got any strong opinions, or even some mild-mannered opinions, just drop a comment down below. I'm interested to hear where other people stand on these sorts of games. I know I talked to some people about them and they're just like, oh, it's just a complete waste of time. But I think it does like fill up a slot of being relaxing, but it also fills up a slot of like, look at the weird things we make. And I think, you know, when you talk about a whole host of different opinions that exist within games and the world and experiences, and the thing about games is we can choose to simulate those experiences or build those experiences. I think the fact that something like this can exist is worth commending and is doing stuff for people, and it's part of the reason I love games. You know, it's diving into these different topics and subjects and being like, what do I get out of this? It turns out I'm about at my limit, but that's not to say it isn't doing something interesting, you know. So, yeah, comment for that. Let's go off the road. Sorry, I'm just getting distracted by everything today. I just want to go off the road and see what happens. Oh, no, that is a hard barrier. This has been my worst driving ever. I've never driven this badly. But I'm kind of just curious to what that looks like. Does the game actually ever slap you hard enough on the wrist so that it has consequences? Who knows? Like the video if you like it. And let's see if we can turn our vehicle over by going around this corner at 50 miles an hour. I mean, we're still technically okay. Oh, that pillow. That's nice. But look at the cabin detail. Like the video if you like it. Comment on these sorts of games. And also, subscribe if you want me to hear me talk more about mundanity in games. I think the next one I'm going to do is going to be Euro Truck. Euro Truck, that's what we're playing right now. Elite Dangerous. In this particular series, but I've got another series to do first before that. Righty ho, thank you for watching. Goodbye.